Okay? I actually had a roommate who was a astrophysicist once, if that helps. There are cosmologists who have theories about the origin of the universe. They've made predictions about, for example, what would happen if they looked up at the infrared radiation. Those predictions are confirmed. Okay, fine. That's what science does. That's what creationists do not do. Right? Can creationism explain the infrared background? I don't think so. Okay? Now, there are other theories. There is now a nice superstring theory of the origin of the universe that I've become aware of recently, and I don't know which is true. There's multiple universe theories. There's a whole anthropomorphic principle in cosmology. That's for those few folks who do that science. Okay? Every time the creationists approach this problem, they want to insist that issues of origin and abiogenesis are somehow related to evolution, right? And they're not, and we tell them they're not. We tell them over and over and over again that issues such as the origin of life, the origin of the universe, are not related to the issue of evolution by natural selection. Those are entirely unrelated processes, and they are like brain dead on that. I don't know. If I had a student who couldn't understand that concept, I would flunk them outright. I can only tell you that. Okay?
Dr. Hovind, would you like to give a rebuttal to that?
Could you read the question one more time? There's part of it I wanted to get. Who had that?
It was, in Dr. Hovind's presentation, he disproved the geological column and the Big Bang Theory. Do you believe that the Big Bang Theory and the geological column, since they're being proven false, can evolution still be true?
I think the Big Bang Theory is not even a good theory. It's a hypothesis. It does not explain a lot of things. It does not explain the origin of time, the origin of space, or the origin of matter, all three of which have to exist, have to be coexistent and come into existence at the same time. If you have matter but no space to put it in, then where would you put it? If you have matter and space but no time, then when would you put it? Time, space, and matter is called a continuum. They have to come into existence simultaneously, and the Bible covers that in one verse with 10 words in it. In the beginning, that's time. God created the heaven, that's space, and the earth, representing matter. God created time, space, and matter all at the same time. And there's no other way to work. I've never met the guy that made this computer. This computer is purely natural components. I mean, there's not a little man running around in there changing the numbers on the screen. And it works on natural processes. But the fact of the matter is the guy who created the computer is not in the computer. He's outside of the computer, above and beyond the computer, okay? And the God who designed this world is above and beyond this world. He's not locked into the same laws that we are. He's not locked into the laws of time, space, and matter. He created those things. He can be right now in yesterday or today or tomorrow. He can be right now at all places at all times simultaneously. So that's the God that I worship anyway. So I see no evidence whatsoever. I have not seen any evidence presented tonight. I was going to try to find the slide. Like I said, I've got 5,000. I couldn't find it. Evolution is like a shell game where they put the pea under the nut, you know, and they move them around, try to get you confused. Oh, which one's got the pea? The geologist is always saying, well, the biologist has the evidence. And the biologist says, oh, no, the anthropologist has it. And there's no pea under any of them. Nobody has the evidence.
Was oil and coal created through humans and plants impacted in mud by Noah's flood?
I think there's ample evidence that oil, I don't think you find a lot of argument, if you can get me on, okay, I don't think you find a lot of argument about the oil formation, that it had to be from natural sources, okay? This textbook, for instance, says the formation of both oil and natural gas here is from the decay of organisms that once lived in the sea. They are changed by heat and pressure into oil. Scientists can make oil pretty quickly in the laboratory. There's an article in the U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Mines, clear back in 1971, where they made oil in 20 minutes out of organic waste. In Australia, they have a factory that takes sewage sludge and produces oil in 30 minutes. So it can be done very quickly. Sinclair Gas Company has the dinosaur as their logo because they say the dinosaurs turned to oil. It used to be called opaline oil, then became Sinclair. They say it mellowed for 80 million years. Well, I disagree. I think the oil formed very quickly during the flood in the days of Noah, when thousands and billions actually of plants and animals and things were buried. The way to explain the fossil fuels that we have, be they oil or natural gas or coal, those were all formed during the flood, I believe, because they all require rapid burial. Some people have tried to propose that maybe coal comes from a peat bed. I was just been in Ireland and North Ireland and Wales here recently, and there's a lot of peat over there. You can dig up your ground, dig up your yard, let it dry out, and burn it. It'll burn. It's very highly organic. It's a substance called peat. However, peat, as it gets compacted over the years, always has thousands, if not millions, of little root canals through them where something grew on top. When you look at coal, you do not find these root canals in the coal. Those who study coal, I think, will tell you that the coal had to form. I've got pictures on that here. Let's see. Coal formation. There we go. Coal had to form very quickly by probably huge mats of vegetation that are buried under deep sediments. Coal can also be produced in a few hours. An organic chemistry book here in 1984, they talked about how coal can be formed in 36 weeks, heating it just to 150 degrees centigrade. You raise the temperature, the time goes down. Coal can be formed rather quickly. I think the best explanation for the coal that we find in the world is during the flood in the days of Noah, there were huge vegetation fields floating around. Trees would get uprooted. They would float for years, like at Mount St. Helens. I just flew down to Mount St. Helens Spirit Lake a few months ago. They have several million trees were blown into that lake. About 20,000 have now sunk to the bottom. The rest are still floating. It's been 22 years, they're still floating there. As they float around, they're going to drop off lots of vegetation. And during the flood in the days of Noah, you would drop off, vegetation fields as it drifts by. A few weeks later, it comes past again. By now, there are layers of sediment in between. And I think the best explanation for this strip mines that we find, coal is nearly always found in layers. And it does not have the root penetration from another forest growing on top of it. It's just simply, solid rocks of vegetation packed with no root penetration. So I don't think it's logical to say that coal formed from peat. I think it's more logical to say the existence of coal, and there are monstrous coal fields in the world, okay? I was in Spokane, Washington yesterday. There is a giant coal field just near there that is 10,000 square miles of coal 200 feet thick, containing all sorts of trees that are petrified, running all sorts of different angles. The best explanation for coal formation is a flood. The best explanation for oil formation is a flood when organisms that are living are buried real deep under enormous amounts of pressure. It can be done in the laboratory in a few hours. It takes a lot of heat and or pressure. That would be best explained by several thousand feet of mud and sediments and rocks being deposited on top of zillions of dead things. So I think the evolution theory is totally devoid of any scientific way to explain the formation of coal or oil in their slow, gradual, natural processes. There are enormous amounts of oil and coal in the ground, indicating the world before the flood was very different than we have today, with probably lots more trees and lots more people, lots more animals. Today the Earth is 70% underwater. Only 3% of the Earth's surface is habitable for mankind. Much of its deserts, tundra, ice caps, uninhabitable. So I think that the Bible says God created the earth to be inhabited. So my theory would be that the original creation had a lot more trees and plants and people when the flood came than we do today. And so probably if we dig in the ground, we're going to find oil and coal and natural gas from these decaying organisms. That would be a testable hypothesis. Okay, thank you.
I guess I get it.
Do you have a rebuttal for this?
Well, I mean, this is one of these things. You can read in Scientific American the responses to this stuff. What can I say? You've got professional geologists